One of the biggest leadership mistakes is hiring people based on potential instead of performance. And yes, it feels good in the moment. You see someone who's enthusiastic, who says all the right things in the interview, who reminds you of yourself a few years back, and you think, I can mold this person. I'll help them grow into the role. But you're not running a mentorship program. You're building a business. You don't need someone who might get there someday. You need someone who can get the job done right now. I've made that mistake. I've hired someone because I liked their energy. I believed in their story. I thought they're not there yet, but they're close. And then weeks turned into months. They didn't hit their numbers. They didn't solve the problems I hired them to solve. And guess what? I didn't address it fast enough because I had already told myself this narrative that they had potential, that they were just ramping up, that they need a little more time. That's not leadership. That's avoidance. And it's expensive. Here's the truth. Every time you hire for potential overperformance, you create a gap in your organization. You plug a hole with hope. You're not solving a problem, you're deferring it. And deferring people problems creates more work for everyone. You, your team, your culture, because now you're not only covering for that person's lack of results, you're also lowering the standard for everyone around them. Great teams aren't built on potential. They're built on clarity, results, and accountability. And that starts with hiring people who can deliver now. Not maybe, not someday, now. I'm not saying you don't hire junior people. Of course, every team needs a pipeline of future leaders, but you need to be brutally honest about what each role requires, what level of skill, ownership, and output is needed from day one. If the person sitting in front of you can't do 80% of that with excellence already, you're not hiring for the role. You're hiring for a fantasy. One of the things we do in our hiring process is create a scorecard. It outlines the exact outcomes the person in the role must produce. It's not a list of tasks, it's a list of results. And we use that scorecard in the interview. We ask, have you done this before? Can you prove it? Not, do you think you could figure this out if we gave you a shot? That question will get you a yes every time. It's not helpful. What's helpful is data. What's helpful is past performance. The best predictor of future performance is past performance. That's not just a saying, it's a hiring principle. If someone hasn't achieved the kind of results you're asking for in a similar environment, why would they start now? Your business isn't the magical exception. You're not a training ground for potential. You're the place where excellence should already live. That's how you grow faster. That's how you lead with less stress. Now, I get it. Hiring for performance can be uncomfortable. It means rejecting people you like. It means saying no to people who are almost there. But leadership isn't about being liked. It's about building something that works. You owe it to your team to put the best players on the field, because when you do that, everyone wins, your team moves faster, results come easier, and culture gets stronger. Because high performers don't want to carry the weight of underperformers. They want to win. They want to be around other people who win. So if you're looking at your team right now and realizing there are people you hired for potential, take ownership. You don't have to beat yourself up, but you do have to act. Get clear on the expectations for that role. Give direct feedback, set real deadlines for performance, and if it's not a fit, make the call. Fast. You don't save people by keeping them in the wrong seat. You slow them down. You slow yourself down. The lesson is simple. Potential doesn't pay the bills, performance does. Don't build a team on maybes, build it on measurable wins. That's how you scale, that's how you lead, and that's how you stop making this mistake for good. Avoiding difficult conversations is one of the most costly habits a leader can fall into. It feels easier in the moment. You tell yourself you'll bring it up later, or that the issue isn't big enough yet, or that maybe the person will figure it out on their own. But that's not leadership. That's procrastination disguised as politeness. Every time you avoid a hard conversation, you trade short-term comfort for long-term chaos. Leadership isn't about being comfortable, it's about being responsible. And being responsible means being willing to say what needs to be said, when it needs to be said, in a way that's clear and constructive. Waiting until someone's performance has gone completely off the rails doesn't make you kind, it makes you negligent. Because by then, the damage is already done, the person feels blindsided, the rest of your team has picked up the slack. And you're trying to fix a problem that should have been addressed weeks ago with a 5-minute conversation. Most people avoid these conversations because they're afraid of conflict. They don't want to hurt someone's feelings, or they're worried the person will get defensive, or they just don't want to deal with the discomfort of saying something direct. But here's the truth. Clarity is kindness. When you withhold feedback to protect someone's feelings, you're not protecting them, you're protecting yourself. You're choosing your own emotional ease over their growth. You can't build a high-performing team that way. I've seen it happen over and over. A leader notices someone consistently missing deadlines, under-delivering on projects, or disengaging in meetings, but instead of addressing it right away, they hope it's just a phase. They try to nudge the person in the right direction with vague encouragement or passive hints. Weeks pass, the behavior continues. Resentment builds, morale drops, and by the time the leader finally addresses it, the situation is already toxic. That's not a people problem. That's a leadership problem. Great leaders don't avoid tension, they walk straight into it with clarity, respect, and urgency. That doesn't mean you're harsh, it means you're honest. It means you care enough about the person in the business to address issues directly. It's not just about calling someone out, it's about calling them up, holding them to a higher standard, giving them the chance to course correct before it's too late. One of the best things you can do as a leader is normalize feedback. Make it part of your culture. If the only time someone hears from you is when they're in trouble, they're going to dread every meeting. But if you're consistently giving real-time, specific feedback, positive and constructive, then the hard conversations don't feel so heavy. They become just another part of how your team grows. It also helps to remember that the goal of the conversation is alignment, not punishment. You're not there to shame someone. You're there to clarify expectations, identify gaps, and make a plan. Start with the facts. Here's what I've observed. Then move into impact. Here's how it affects the team, the client, the project. Then ask for their perspective. What's your take on this? Most people want to do good work. They want to succeed, but they can't fix a problem they don't fully understand. Timing matters too. Don't wait until your one-on-one next week. Don't wait until the annual review. Have the conversation as soon as the issue becomes clear. And don't make it a 5-topic check-in. Focus on one thing, be direct, stay calm, and end with a clear agreement on next steps. What will change, by when, how will progress be measured. That's how accountability is created. Yes, some people will still get defensive. Some might push back. That's okay. You're not responsible for how they feel. You're responsible for being truthful and fair. And if someone consistently resists feedback or refuses to improve, then you have your answer. Not every conversation ends in a breakthrough, but every conversation gives you clarity, and clarity is how you lead with confidence. Avoiding difficult conversations doesn't protect your team. It weakens it. It sends the message that low standards are acceptable, that results don't really matter, and that underperformance will be tolerated. That's how great people leave. They don't want to be part of a team where issues fester and nothing gets addressed. They want to be part of a culture where excellence is expected and communication is real. So have the conversation. Don't wait. Don't water it down. And don't apologize for leading. That's what your team needs most. Not another email, not another meeting, just a real conversation that moves things forward. That's how problems get solved. That's how people grow. And that's how you earn the right to lead. Trying to be involved in everything is one of the fastest ways to burn out as a leader and sabotage your team in the process. It usually comes from a good place. You care about the business. You want things done right. You're used to being the one who makes it happen. So when something needs attention, you jump in. You tweak the copy, edit the spreadsheet, rewrite the email, sit in on the sales call, join the brainstorm, follow up on the client ticket, and before you know it, your calendar is packed, your team is disempowered, and your business is stuck. When you're in everything, nothing can scale because everything has to run through you. Every decision, every revision, every tiny detail. If you're the final checkpoint, you've just built a bottleneck. You've told your team, I don't trust you to run without me. And even if you didn't say it out loud, that's the message they hear. You might think you're helping, but what you're really doing is teaching people to be dependent on you. That's not leadership, that's control. I've been there. I've been the one on every Zoom call, CC'd on every email thread, pinged on Slack for every decision. And I thought I was being proactive. I thought I was supporting the team. What I was really doing was slowing everything down. Because when you're involved in everything, Nothing moves until you give the green light. And if you're not available or you're drained, things stall, momentum dies, the team gets frustrated, and you start resenting your own business. The shift happens when you realize your job is not to do everything. It's to build the system that gets everything done. That means documenting how things work. That means training people properly. That means setting clear expectations and then letting your team own the outcome. Yes, it takes time up front. Yes, you'll have to let go of some control, but the payoff is huge. Freedom, scale, and a team that doesn't rely on you for every decision. If you're constantly jumping into tasks, ask yourself why. Is it because you didn't set clear standards? Because you don't have a documented process? Because you hired someone who can't actually do the job? Those are leadership problems, not team problems. And they don't get fixed by working harder. They get fixed by thinking longer term, by stepping out of the day-to-day and looking at your role through a different lens. You should be involved in the right things, not all things. What are the needle moving decisions that only you can make? Focus there. Everything else, delegate, empower, get out of the way. That doesn't mean you stop carrying. It means you start trusting. You trust your systems, your hires, your training. And if any of those aren't strong enough to run without you, fix that. Don't compensate for a broken system by becoming the system. Your team will grow when you give them room to, when they know they're responsible for results, not just following your instructions. They rise. And yes, they'll make mistakes. That's part of growth. But mistakes are better than stagnation. A few errors caught early are nothing compared to the cost of staying small because everything depends on you. This also ties directly to culture. When you're over-involved, you kill ownership. People stop taking initiative because they know you'll swoop in. They stop making decisions because they know you'll override them. And soon you're surrounded by a team that waits for approval, for feedback, for direction. That's exhausting, not just for them, but for you. You become the bottleneck, the firefighter, the safety net, and you're not leading, you're managing chaos. So take a hard look at your calendar. Where are you showing up just to check a box? Where are you holding on because you're afraid to let go? Where are you confusing importance with involvement? Just because something matters doesn't mean you have to be in the weeds. Your job is to make sure it happens, not to be the one doing it. That's the difference between working in the business. The more you step back, the more your business steps forward. Let your team lead, let your systems run, reserve your energy for the few decisions that actually require your attention, and let go of the rest. That's not giving up control, that's taking ownership of your role as a real leader. Letting culture happen by default is one of the most dangerous leadership mistakes you can make. It sounds harmless because culture feels soft, like a vibe and energy, something you sense but don't really define. But here's the reality. Culture is happening whether you create it or not. It's being built every day through what's tolerated, what's rewarded, what's ignored, and what's repeated. If you don't shape it, it will shape itself, and that version won't serve your business. A lot of leaders think culture is about perks. They focus on free snacks, flexible hours, fun events, and while those things can be nice, they're not culture. Culture is the way your team behaves when you're not in the room. It's how people communicate, how they make decisions, how they handle pressure. It's what people believe is expected of them, even if it's never been said out loud. And if you're not intentionally reinforcing the culture you want, you're inviting in one you don't. I've seen this play out too many times. A leader thinks the team is aligned because everyone gets along in meetings, but behind the scenes, there's gossip, there's resentment, there's missed accountability, and when the results start slipping, the leader blames performance. But performance is downstream of culture. If people don't feel ownership, don't trust each other, don't value excellence, that's not a performance problem, it's a culture problem. And it started the moment the leader assumed culture would take care of itself. The best companies don't just talk about culture, they engineer it. They define what they want it to look like. They write it down, they communicate it, they repeat it over and over again, not just in onboarding, not just on posters, but in actual behavior. They hire based on it, they promote based on it, they let people go based on it. Culture isn't just a set of values on the wall. It's what gets lived out every single day. If you want a culture of ownership, you can't tolerate excuses. If you want a culture of speed, you can't reward people for perfectionism and delay. If you want a culture of collaboration, you can't ignore passive-aggressive behavior or siloed communication. Every time you let something slide, you send a message, this is okay here. And one message at a time, your culture becomes a mess. It's not just about removing the bad, it's about reinforcing the good. When someone goes above and beyond, call it out. When someone embodies the values, spotlight it. When someone solves a tough problem without being asked, reward it. People need to see what great looks like. They need to know what's expected beyond just hitting a number, because culture drives behavior and behavior drives results. It starts with clarity. What kind of culture do you actually want? Not the buzzwords, the real thing. Do you want a high performance culture, a fast moving culture, a culture of direct feedback? Then say that. Define what that looks like. What behaviors reinforce that? What behaviors threaten it? Put that in writing, make it part of your leadership language. Culture can't be vague. It has to be operationalized. Then comes consistency. Culture isn't a one-time announcement, it's a daily commitment. It's how you lead meetings, how you respond to failure, how you give feedback. If you preach transparency but avoid hard conversations, your culture is confusion. If you say excellence matters but keep people who underperform, your culture is mediocrity. And your team will notice. They always know. A strong culture also protects your business as you grow, because when new people join, they adapt to what already exists. If what exists is clear, consistent, and aligned with your values, they rise to it. If it's messy and unspoken, they bring their own version. And you get a blend of habits, standards, and behaviors that start pulling the team in different directions. And that's how cultures break. Not in a day, but in 1,000 little choices no one talked about. You don't have to get it perfect from day one, but you do have to get intentional. Culture isn't a side project, it's the foundation. And if you want to build something that lasts, you have to lead it, not just hope it turns out right. Talk about it, coach to it, make decisions through it. That's how you move from a team that just works together to a team that wins together. And that's what real leadership looks like. Confusing busyness with effectiveness is one of the easiest traps to fall into as a leader. The calendar is full, the to-do list never ends, and every hour is packed with meetings, emails, check-ins, and follow-ups. It feels like progress because you're constantly doing something. But the real question isn't, am I busy? The question is any of this actually moving the business forward? Because activity isn't the same as impact. And if you're not careful, you'll build your identity around effort instead of outcomes. This mistake shows up in 100 different ways. Saying yes to every meeting because you want to be seen as supportive. Jumping into problems your team should be solving because you want to stay in the loop. Working late every night to finish tasks that probably shouldn't be on your plate in the first place. You end the day exhausted, but the results don't reflect the energy you spent. That's not leadership. It's motion without direction. Effectiveness means knowing the difference between what's urgent and what's important. It means aligning your time with priorities that drive growth, not just fill hours. You can spend 8 hours replying to Slack messages and still miss the one conversation that would have changed the trajectory of the business. You can spend a week organizing files or cleaning up workflows and completely avoid the client meeting that would have unlocked new revenue. Busyness gives you the illusion of control. Effectiveness requires clarity, discipline, and saying no often. One of the best questions you can ask yourself is, if I only had 2 hours to work today, what would I focus on? That question forces you to prioritize. It forces you to cut through the noise and identify the activities that actually create value. Because not all work is equal. Some things move the business, some things just keep it moving. And the more time you spend on the latter, the more you drift. This also applies to your team. When they see you always rushing, always involved, always maxed out, they assume that's what success looks like. They think being busy equals being important, so they start copying the behavior. They fill their schedules, they attend every meeting, they overload their plates, and suddenly your culture rewards effort instead of execution. That's how businesses become slow, bloated, and reactive, and it starts at the top. If you want to break this cycle, you have to redefine what productivity actually means for your role. What are the highest leverage actions you can take? Is it hiring the right person, closing the right deal, fixing a broken system, creating clarity where there's confusion? Those are the moves that matter, not managing every detail, not being available 24/7, not chasing after every task. Your value isn't in how many hours you work, it's in how you direct your energy. It's also important to look at how you structure your time. Are you batching similar tasks together or switching constantly? Are you guarding your deep work time or letting every notification interrupt your flow? Are you treating your calendar like a strategy tool or a dumping ground for everyone else's requests? The way you manage your time reflects what you believe about your role. And if you're constantly reactive, always available, and endlessly busy, your results will reflect that. There's nothing impressive about burnout. There's nothing heroic about doing everything yourself. Leadership isn't about being the busiest person in the room. It's about making the clearest decisions, creating the biggest wins, and building a team that doesn't rely on your exhaustion to function. That requires stepping back. It requires looking at your tasks and asking, does this actually need me? If not, delegate it, automate it, eliminate it, but stop hoarding work just to feel valuable. The truth is, busyness is a form of avoidance. It gives you something to do so you don't have to sit with the hard questions, the strategic questions, the ones that don't have instant answers but could change everything if you gave them space. Effectiveness demands that you slow down, get clear, and focus your attention like a laser, not a floodlight. You don't get paid to be busy. You get paid to lead. And leadership is about outcomes. It's about results. So stop measuring your worth by how much you do. Start measuring it by what actually gets better because you did it. That's the shift. That's the difference. And that's what separates exhausted managers from high impact leaders.